affirms his individuality in the past and confirms his individuality in the future also. He has confirmed his individuality in many ways, and impersonal Brahman has been declared to be subordinate to him. Krishna has maintained spiritual individuality all along. If he is accepted as an ordinary conditioned soul in individual consciousness, then his Bhagavad Gita has no value as authoritative scripture. A common man with all the four defects of human frailty is unable to teach that which is worth hearing. Beautiful statement. A common man with all the four defects of human frailty is unable to teach that which is worth hearing. The Gita is above such literature. No mundane book compares with the Bhagavad Gita. When one accepts Krishna as an ordinary man, the Gita loses all importance. The Mayavadi argues that the plurality mentioned in this verse is conventional and that it refers to the body. But previous to this verse, such a bodily conception is already condemned. After condemning the bodily conception of the living entities, how was it possible for Krishna to place a conventional proposition on the body again? Therefore, individuality is mentioned on spiritual grounds and is thus confirmed by great acharyas like Sri Ramanuja and others. It is clearly mentioned in many places in the Gita that this spiritual individuality is understood by those who are devotees of the Lord. Those who are envious of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead have no bona fide access to the great literature. The non-devotee's approach to the teachings of the Gita is something like that of a bee licking on a bottle of honey. One cannot have a taste of honey unless one opens the bottle. Similarly, the mysticism of Bhagavad Gita can be understood only by devotees, and no one else can taste it, as it is stated in the 4th chapter of the book. Nor can the Gita be touched by persons who envy the very existence of the Lord. Therefore, the Mayavadi explanation of the Gita is a most misleading presentation of the whole truth. Lord Chaitanya has forbidden us to read commentations made by the Mayavadis and warns that one who takes to such an understanding of the Mayavad philosophy loses all power to understand the real mystery of the Gita. If individuality refers to the empirical universe, then there is no need of teaching by the Lord. The plurality of the individual soul and of the Lord is an eternal fact, and it is confirmed by the Vedas as above mentioned. Omajnanatamidamdasya jnananjanashalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai shri gurave namah. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaya. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudamani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshtarani Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavayabhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangham Langhayate Giri Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Guru Dintaranam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. This is such a powerful purport. We can have practically a weeks of discussion on this purport. One day or just half an hour is practically an injustice to this purport. It has such valuable, potential, powerful principles that Srila Prabhupada is so amazingly highlighting in his purport. So as we see from chapter 1 onwards to where we are today, on the 12th verse of chapter 2, Arjuna gave many reasons why he doesn't want to participate in the battle of Kurukshetra. And the reasons were given based on Shastra. They were not whimsical inspirations based on his Raga Dvesha. They were all Shastric justifications. It is said,
pull the mic closer to your mouth.
It is said that a Brahmana speaks on the platform of, speaks on a spiritual, from a spiritual platform. A Kshatriya speaks from a religious platform. A Vaishya speaks from a moral platform. And a Shudra just speaks. His platform of speech is basically what he likes, what he doesn't like. There's no substantial platform. It's a flickering platform. Today he likes something, tomorrow he doesn't like something, the same thing. So Shudra's speech cannot be relied upon because it doesn't have a substantial foundation. All the arguments that Arjuna gave here were based on religious grounds, befitting a Kshatriya. So actually there's nothing wrong in what Arjuna spoke. All his arguments were based on Shastra. So they were based on religious grounds, which is what a Kshatriya is supposed to do. That's where comes the need of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna wanted to upgrade through Arjuna, all of us, or the recipients of Bhagavad Gita, from the religious platform to the spiritual platform. This is a very important basic principle which is being given through the message of Bhagavad Gita. The living entity should no longer remain on a religious, mundane, pious platform. Rather, raise his understandings and see the world from a spiritual perception. So Krishna didn't want Arjuna to just see the opposite army as his relatives or being Kshatriyas, if they may be eager to fight, and the different arguments that Arjuna gave, they may be eager to fight, but why we succumb to such a lowly act? Because they don't understand the sins involved in fighting. We do understand the sins involved. Why should we do the wrong that they are doing because of ignorance? And such things Arjuna gave as reasons why he doesn't want to fight. The talk was going on and would have gone on had Arjuna not surrendered. So in a discussion, a conclusion cannot come about unless if the discussion is taking place only amongst equals, where there is no principle of subordination to an authority. Srila Prabhupada in one of the lectures talks about this principle, saying that amongst friends there can be arguments, discussions, but when the role of a guru comes in picture, then there is no argument. One cannot argue. Then one has to follow. So Arjuna was giving arguments based on Shastra because the relationship with Krishna at that time was more of a friend. Therefore we see Krishna was silent. Because there is no need of speaking to Arjuna as a friend, because he will keep giving more arguments to whatever I say. Pasyaitan kurun iti. Something like that was the only words spoken by Krishna in chapter 1. 3-4 words. Krishna didn't speak much. But within that, Lord Krishna, when he speaks, volumes of knowledge is conveyed. What speaks? Krishna's presence, a slight gesture of the Lord speaks volumes. It can be heard by loving devotees only. Krishna spoke Kurun iti. Just Krishna told Arjuna when Krishna took the chariot in the middle of the battlefield, just see Arjuna, the Kauravas assembled. Kurun iti. There was a pun within this statement. Krishna's speech or devotee's speech is very deep. Through that statement, Kurun iti, Krishna was invoking the differentiation that was perceived by Dhritarashtra. Mamaka Pandavaschaiva. What did my sons and the sons of Pandu do? This differentiation that was being made within the family members was being subtly highlighted by Lord Krishna. This is a sweet aspect of spiritual knowledge. Spiritual knowledge is subtle. It requires refined consciousness to understand spiritual substance. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya, when he spread Krishna consciousness to the masses, he gave Harinam Sankirtan. He just gave the holy names. And Srila Prabhupada added, along with holy names, he gave Krishna Prasad to the masses. But Bhagavad Gita, or talking about Shastra, Lord Chaitanya did with Ramanand Rai in privacy. He did with Prakashanand Saraswati or Sarabham Bhattacharya. Very few selected people, one-on-one, Shastra was discussed. But Harinam Sankirtan Lord Chaitanya gave to the masses, because the masses cannot understand the subtleties of spiritual life. As Srila Prabhupada mentions, practically 25% of the purport towards the end. Those who are envious cannot understand the mystery of spiritual literatures. It will be discussed, as Prabhupada says in chapter 4, and furthermore highlighted and emphasized by Lord Krishna himself in chapter 9. Raja Vidya, Raja Guhyam, Idam Tute Guhyatamam. This is the topmost secret. Bhagavad Gita, although this book is available to one and all, but only devotees of Lord Krishna can understand Bhagavad Gita. It is not through mundane scholarship that one can understand this literature or the message that Krishna actually spoke. Therefore, if you talk to people in general, what is the message of Bhagavad Gita? Karma hi pradhan hai. Just do your duty. Work is worship. They take out such meanings from it. Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj once said, if work is worship, then donkey should be the biggest devotee. He works so hard. Any work is worship. See, materialistic people, however much they study this literature, it remains a mystery. This is amazing. This is how Lord Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita. It is spoken in such a way that it is locked to those who are envious. They just can't understand this literature. Amazing. Any material book you go, you open, you study, you can understand it. Or you take a tutor, you can understand it. There are people who have done PhD on Bhagavad Gita, but they have not understood at all anything of Bhagavad Gita because they don't have faith on the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So at such a level, unless a person surrenders, the message of Bhagavad Gita remains a mystery. And Bhagavad Gita is a very subtle and sublime message. Material knowledge to understand doesn't require surrender. It just requires good IQ and hard work. And we think by the same tools we can understand Bhagavad Gita. I'll study it again and again and again, and I'll understand the Gita. It will remain a mystery. It will give a false understanding. And now I know Bhagavad Gita because I can recite some verses of Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, sometimes we don't encourage too much to people to learn too many verses without being a devotee. Simply learning verses will make you get a false conception that now I know Gita. It's even worse than somebody who doesn't know Gita and thinks that he doesn't know. Then if someone doesn't know Bhagavad Gita but he thinks he knows, because he knows some verses, and he can give some speech on those verses. I know a man who studies Bhagavad Gita like this for 8 hours through internet. 8 hours every day he spends from different places on the net, wherever he gets information. He studies and he prepares very voluminous notes. And once in a week he gives a pravachan. Whoever nearby people, they come, very intellectual. I once saw his notes. From all Mayavad, everywhere he collects whatever information he gets on the net. Very exhaustive preparation on each verse he has made. But neither he nor the hearers of that will become devotees, or will understand the message of Bhagavad Gita. That is the expertise with which Lord Krishna has spoken this message. It is spoken, but it can't be understood unless you surrender. Similarly, Arjuna, he was speaking, but Lord Krishna didn't speak because there was no use of unnecessarily speaking and arguing till Arjuna surrendered. What happens when one surrenders to bona fide authority? With that surrender, the heart of the authority opens. He willingly and joyfully and happily receiving the surrender on behalf of the Parampara, Lord Krishna, he wants to share the message of the heart. That is when Dharmasya Tattvam Nihitam Kohayam. The essence of the scriptures is stored in the heart of a Vaishnava. And how that message from the heart of the Vaishnava is accessed, it also remains mystery or hidden till the time a living entity surrenders. The surrender is such, it immediately opens the heart of the Vaishnava, and the message flows from the heart of the Vaishnava and enters into the heart of the recipient. Without that surrender, let's say if Duryodhana would have come and said, Krishna, what is this? You spoke Gita to Arjuna only, speak to me also. I also want to hear a message of Bhagavad Gita. This is not fair. This is partiality. If Krishna was very forced by Duryodhana to speak, he would have spoken some very few principles here and there. So many times Krishna mentioned Bhagavad Gita. Who can hear Bhagavad Gita and who cannot? So surrender is a very important principle in spiritual life, without which the whole realm of spirituality remains like a mystery. It cannot be understood. So as long as one is whimsically practicing spirituality, I like to read this book, I like to chant today, I like to do this service today, as long as one is living a life based on I like this, I don't like this, one may do a lot of things and get some sukriti also. But the substance of spirituality, the heart of the Supreme Lord and of your devotees of Krishna, will not be understood within our heart. We can perform acts like a devotee, but our heart will not undergo much of a transformation. That means our attitude to please Krishna will not develop. One devotee very beautifully said, sadhana doesn't mean acts of chanting and hearing. Sadhana means cultivating a desire to please Krishna. Purpose of our hearing and chanting is to cultivate a desire, I want to please Krishna. Right now, a desire to please Krishna is very small, practically non-existent. We simply want to please our own senses. The purpose of sadhana is to help us cultivate that desire. I want to please Krishna. I don't want anything else. These kind of principles will enter into our heart when we agree to surrender. So when Arjuna surrendered to Krishna, that is the time Krishna began to speak this mystical message. It's not that Krishna was privately giving this message to Arjuna, it was actually meant for anyone and everyone. But anyone and everyone were not ready to surrender. Therefore the message was only for Arjuna at that time. With surrender comes the actual message that authority wants to give. Without surrender, some general scriptural injunctions will come. But with surrender, direct instruction, what is good for that living entity, will come out. Direct instruction will come. Krishna began with a very strong instruction. Ashocha and Anvachocha. He began with a chastisement. For a disciple to receive chastisement from the Guru is the greatest wealth of the disciple. When somebody has not received chastisement, he is a poor disciple. Because chastisement is a sign of intimacy. Chastisement is a sign that actually you are surrendering. In Guru's eyes, you are surrendering. You may think I am surrendered. But if you're not receiving chastisement, means actually we have not surrendered properly enough. A lot more surrender is required. Till the time one Advaita Acharya did this whole pastime of speaking Mayavad philosophy to receive that chastisement from Lord Chaitanya. As we grow in our spiritual life, we realize the value of chastisement from a pure soul. The message that comes to chastisement goes deep into our heart. And that is what actually we need to cut our knots of material attachment. And Arjuna was so fortunate that the moment he surrendered, Krishna gave chastisement. Something which is like something that is achieved after many, many births of surrender. One achieves eventually the chastisement of Guru. Arjuna achieved right in the beginning. That shows his intensity of surrender. That pleased Lord Krishna so much faith Krishna had on Arjuna that if I chastise him, he will not run away from the battlefield. Already he is willing to run away. If I chastise him too hard, he'll give another reason, he'll give a sixth reason to run away from the battlefield. But Krishna knew that in this situation, Arjuna's surrender is strong enough that this chastisement will bring him closer to my heart. Will further make his heart pliable to receive the message. So Krishna was ploughing the heart of Arjuna through the chastisement, making that heart ready to receive this message. That was verse 11. And today's verse, in the beginning of the purport, Srila Prabhupada sometimes Prabhupada does this. He gave a purport to the previous verse, where Lord Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. That Arjuna, you are unnecessarily lamenting for something that is not worthy of lamentation. Gatasun agatasun. The body which is temporary, which comes and goes, which lives for some time and dies. You are lamenting for this body. The rest of the 19 verses, Krishna is elaborating on this word, Gatasun agatasun. Temporariness of the body through establishing the permanence of soul. So Lord Krishna is correcting Arjuna's faulty conception of seeing the world on the bodily conception of life. And then that same mood is continuing in this purport in the beginning. Srila Prabhupada is establishing that how Lord Krishna that Arjuna, same principle of Arjuna should not lament for this body because this body is temporary. And then how Lord Krishna, then Srila Prabhupada basically throughout the purport establishes refutation to Mayavad philosophy. So we'll try to discuss in brief from 5-10 minutes What is this Mayavad philosophy? Actually, Mayavad philosophy is very confusing. If you hear Mayavad philosophy from Mayavadi, you'll never understand it. Because they themselves are not clear with it. Because one said a Vaishnava can explain Mayavad philosophy better than Mayavadi. Well, actually it's a little confusing. It is self-contradictory. They proclaim Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. The only Satya, only reality is Brahman. Everything else is Mithya. So there's only, reality is one. Two means Mithya. It cannot be reality. And then they describe that one Satya as immeasurable, undescribable. Why are you describing? Why are you giving lectures on how Brahman? Why are you writing books? What is the significance of writing? Because then you are making it two. What you are and what you have written. There are two. At every point, if you are speaking means you are proclaiming there are two. You are speaking, somebody is hearing. So you are contradicting your own philosophy. It's mithya to speak. Because it's just one, it should be just one. Even to live, you are breathing and you are seeing. You shouldn't do two things. But if you really follow Mayavad philosophy, just do one thing. Because one is real, two means it's mithya. It just doesn't work like this. It's so self-contradictory. So Brahma Satya, Jagat Mithya. Everything in this world is illusion. This whole world is illusion. You are illusion, I am illusion. Only that one thing is the real thing. Actually then there is no need for anything to do in this world. Because everything is only illusion. It's a very frustrating kind of a philosophy. If you shouldn't do anything because anything you do is mithya. Just sit. Why to sit also? Sitting also. What to do? How to commit suicide, that means. Actually, therefore, Srila Prabhupada says Mayavadis are talking about spiritual suicide. Indirectly. It's a very confusing. Srila Prabhupada and his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, was so strong against this Mayavad philosophy. We should understand the dangers of Mayavad philosophy. Why they were so strong? Mayavad bhashya sunile hoile sarvanash. Prabhupada quotes this without quoting the verse in his purport. Lord Chaitanya said, anyone who hears Mayavad philosophy with submission will be destroyed. What Mayavad philosophy does, because it is saying everything is mithya. Everything in this world is mithya. Our living is mithya, our dying is mithya, speaking, everything is waste. They say that Brahman separates itself into small living sparks, which is called soul. And they are existing for some time, and then they merge into that same Brahman, that light, white light or some light, and it becomes one with that light. So temporarily it separates and then it merges back. So its existence in that separateness is temporary and thus illusory. It has no significance, it has no value. So right now temporarily we have can come away from that whole light and existing for some time. And then after we leave this body, that means according to them, anyone who dies will merge into that Brahman. Because that's what is the destination after dying. The soul merges back into that light and becomes one with that light. So there is no person God and there are no real persons, human beings or living entities. When they get a human body or any body, they have real significance. They say that this is not true. Actually, Prabhupada refutes in the purport that Brahma and Jagat both are Satya. Or this world can be called as mithya because of its temporary existence, but not that it doesn't exist. Mayavadi's conception of reality is false. Just like if you consider a rope as a snake. So rope exists and snake also exists. Because you're considering the rope as a snake, that doesn't mean rope doesn't exist. It's snake. Rope also exists somewhere. Or right now here, actually it's a rope. And snake may not be here, but it exists. Otherwise we cannot consider the rope as a snake unless it has an existence. So rope exists, snake exists, but a conception of considering the rope to be snake is mithya. It's not the rope is mithya or the snake is mithya. Another place explains this principle like this. Both have reality, real existence. But the problem is the misconception of reality. So this Prabhupada in the introduction of Bhagavad Gita explains this material world can be called as mithya because it has temporary nature. But it is eternally temporary. Its existence is always there, but temporarily it manifests and for some time it is unmanifest. But the ingredients always remain. They are eternal. So it's not mithya. Basically, we don't need to get into detail of the philosophy. The basic refutation we have to understand that the soul, even in this world, is eternal because it is spiritual by nature, and when it goes back, even if it has to go to Brahmajyoti, it will never merge with the Brahmajyoti. That is clearly mentioned in this verse. Nat tvevaham jato nasam, nat tvam neve janam. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in future shall any of us cease to be. This point, nor in future, makes this very clear that never there will be a time when the soul will lose his individuality. So Mayavadi theory, Prabhupada says, is very dangerous because it is putting an end to the existence of soul, which means putting an end to the existence of a relationship with Krishna, which means putting an end to our servitude to Krishna. Jivera sarup hoye, Krishnera nitya das. They are removing the nityaness of the das, dasatva. The attitude to serve, which is a natural propensity of the soul, is being murdered by the Mayavadis. That means they say you don't need to serve anyone. Or they are proclaiming that they say Namo Narayana. They call each other as Narayan. Because there is no need to surrender to anyone. You are that Narayan. A part of that Narayan has come in this world, which is you. So all of us are individual Narayans. And then we merge into that light and become one Narayan. Very crazy philosophy. And basically one principle is it shatters and destroys our servitude, which is against the nature of soul. Or in other words, they are trying to say you don't need to surrender to anyone. Therefore, this philosophy is very easily accepted by one and all. Nobody likes to surrender in this world. And Mayavadi philosophy is propagating this. You don't need to surrender. Because who will God surrender to? Although God also surrenders, they don't know this. God surrenders to his devotees out of his love for them. But they don't understand the sweetness of the relation. The word relationship doesn't exist for Mayavadis. Love doesn't exist. Love means relationship. What kind of life without love, without relationships? Just exist. And that existence also is like just one alone existing, without anything. What kind of life is that? Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharya. Srila Prabhupada's Pranati has this word. Prabhupada destroyed the impersonalistic tendencies, especially in the Western world. Once a disciple of Srila Prabhupada asked, Prabhupada, we see Mayavadis more in India. Why in the West you say people are Mayavadis and in your Pranati you have used this statement like this. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatara. Whereas I see Nirvishesha Shunyavadi is more in India. Here people we see around talking all Mayavad philosophy. There people have no philosophy only. The only one philosophy is sun gratification. Why Paschatya Desha? Prabhupada, different times he used to answer this differently. In this situation, when he said that, Prabhupada, why you are saying Western world is more Mayavad, India is more Mayavad? Prabhupada said, you are a Mayavadi. Prabhupada looked at him and told him, in this situation. Actually, this Mayavad tendency is very, very subtle. Mayavadis don't want to surrender. We also don't want to surrender. Mayavadi wants to take the position of God. We also want to be controllers, enjoyers and proprietors. In the Western world, Prabhupada says people have a lot of this tendency. They're not trying to discriminate now. Everyone has this tendency. Especially in the West, or place where the culture of respect is not talked about, naturally you will disrespect everyone and you want to be the supreme. You want to be the controller, you want to be the enjoyer. These days in India also this tendency has come very strongly because the culture of respect is degrading, which is what I talked about some time back, a few days back, the temple. So actually by destroying the culture of respect, we are propagating Mayavad. Mayavad is not just saying everything is one and things like that. The tendency, the spirit of Mayavad is, I don't want to surrender to anyone. That means I can do what I like when I like. And I will do it. This stubbornness, this whimsical attitude is what actually Mayavad is. Therefore Srila Prabhupada was so strong against Mayavad. It's not just the philosophy, it's the mentality. The mentality is dangerous. Because we are here suffering because of our rebelliousness against Krishna. The only way to give up this suffering is to surrender to Krishna. And Mayavad crushes the tendency to surrender. Therefore Mayavad is atheism. Gross atheism. But it doesn't appear. Mayavadis, they talk about Krishna, they talk about philosophy, they talk pastimes. But the application is just do what you want. You don't need to surrender to anyone. And everyone likes this philosophy. Recently I met some person who said, my guru is very broad-minded. He has put no rules upon me. I can take non-veg, I can drink alcohol. He doesn't mind all these things. He's a very broad-minded guru. Your guru is very narrow-minded. He's put so many rules and restrictions upon me. This is not right. Love is a matter of freedom. You really love God. You can't put rules and restrictions to love. And they're just words. The same person, when some problem happens with a family member, they'll fight. Where is love? They'll be so disturbed. So much of confusion in this world in the name of spirituality, especially in India, is going on. In the name of spirituality. Because anything other than pure Vaishnavism is Mayavad. So anyone who is not a devotee of Krishna or aspiring to be a pure devotee of Krishna is actually grossly or subtly living like a Mayavadi. So this tendency is very, very deep-rooted within each one of our hearts. To not to want to establish relationship with devotees. To want to be, I'll do my thing myself, alone. I don't want to mix with the community of devotees. Or I don't want to, it's just separated, Pithak Bhavam, Bhagavatam says. Having one separate interest, separate from the interest of Krishna. Separate from the interest of devotees of Krishna. And I want to establish my own identity. Devotee doesn't want to, although soul has its individuality, but that individuality is in line with Krishna's desire. It doesn't have its own identity separate from Krishna's identity. I will do this whether Krishna likes it or not. Each one of us, we carry this kind of a intention of, based on a raga dvesha, we want to do various things. I want to do this because I like it. We hardly care for what Krishna likes. Krishna likes, I'll do this. We don't even think in this direction. We are Mayavadis. Thinking of oneself, my likes and dislikes builds supreme. And I do what I like. In fact, everyone in this world, if you ask me why you do this, it's nice, I like it. Once I met a small girl, her father, mother were chanting Hare Krishna. So I came to know this girl also started chanting. So I asked this girl, why are you chanting Hare Krishna? She said, it's cool. It's cool to chant. I like it. She's just liking it. It's cool. Then surely, after some time, if she doesn't remain cool, it becomes a heart. She's not getting what she was getting from that. She'll stop it. Of course, chanting is so powerful. Even once having done that, will put some credits in her spiritual bank account. Lord Krishna, through his devotees, will not leave her. But this is not the motivation. This will not give us what is there within the chanting. There's so much taste stored within this spiritual subject matter or spiritual principles. They remain unaccessed unless we change our motivations, unless we're just doing it because I like it. So Mayavad philosophy means I do what I like and I'll not do what I don't like. There is no principle of surrender. To understand the dangers, why our acharyas have been so strong to the extent that Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati appreciated when Srila Prabhupada said, sentient, absolute is sentient, thou hast proved. Impersonal calamity, thou hast removed. Prabhupada wrote that in his prayer, Vyasa Puja offering. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was so happy. This person has understood my heart. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada wanted in his Pranati to have this Paschat Desha Tarane, Nirvishesh Shunyavadi. Now Paschat Desha is whole world. Whole world has become Mayavad. It's not just Western, no. Whole world is Nirvishesh Shunyavadi. So we have a bigger responsibility, Tarane, to deliver. No, we don't have to deliver just the Western world. The whole world has to be delivered because everyone, as Kali Yuga is progressing, the Mayavadiness, the tendency is becoming stronger and stronger and stronger. People are trained through modern education. Why not to surrender to superiors? I heard recently in a company, the bosses, they have made a rule for their subordinates that nobody should call us sir or madam. They should call us by our name. Peter, John, or in India, whatever, Ramesh, or they should address us by name because it's more personal, they said. They should not call us by any respectful word used by a subordinate for the superior is considered offensive. Recently I heard, and this culture is spreading very fastly. I heard it was in one company and I heard it spread to many companies. In many colleges, the professors, they don't like their students to call them with respect. They're taking it as an offense. Call us by our name. That is more personal, they say. Just see how much Mayavad is coming in the society. People are crushing the principle of respect. And then these professors will expect the students to listen to them, to hear them. It's a joke. That's why I said Mayavad philosophy is self-contradictory. It is self-contradictory. It leads to frustration. Because it is based on complete speculation. They feel nice when they hear the name from their subordinates. But what is the repercussion of that? They can't conceive. And anything that goes against the principle of scriptures has to rebound. Therefore, Guru Sadhu Shastra has to be the basis of taking decisions. So Srila Prabhupada, not only in this verse, practically the continuing next few verses also, through different purports and through different verses. Srila Prabhupada is giving the purport of establishing the individuality of the soul. And of course, there is another point that Mayavadis say of Krishna and the living entities being one. Or Krishna himself, his identity in this material world, also being a conditioned living entity. Prabhupada says if Krishna is conditioned, then Bhagavad Gita has no meaning. It's very important. If we hear from a person whom we consider as one of us, then the value of his words will not be much. We will not take his words seriously. If we think he's just one of us speaking, what's the big thing about it? If Arjuna considered Krishna as just one of his friends, then Arjuna wouldn't have been able to take the message of Bhagavad Gita. That is envy. You can't consider someone else superior. Sutta Goswami, when he was speaking, or when he was chosen to speak by the sages of Naimisharanya, Shaunaka Rishi, actually many of the sages were more qualified than Sutta Goswami in the audience, in terms of the knowledge. But they still selected Sutta Goswami because they said, you are a very kind-hearted disciple who has served and pleased your spiritual master. Thus, the essence of the scriptures will be revealed in your heart. So we want to hear from you, your realizations, which will be nothing but the essence of the scriptural message that you've heard with submission from your spiritual master. It's not a matter of scholarship that makes one more qualified. It's a matter of this principle of surrender to the spiritual authority that gives one deep realizations by which one can benefit oneself and serve the humanity. So if we consider one whom we hear from, like in this case Prabhupada is talking about Krishna, is considered as ordinary, then there is no meaning to hear Bhagavad Gita. One will not take the word seriously. One will not feel that need to surrender. You don't surrender to someone whom you consider ordinary. There has to be something special in the person whom you surrender to. And then can you receive transcendental knowledge. So by destroying the principle of respect, forget about surrender. We can't get any spiritual knowledge, because only when you consider somebody superior to you will transcendental knowledge flow. Even if you don't consider that person superior to the extent of being a spiritual master, at least there has to be some feeling of superiority towards that person. Then something that he speaks or she speaks will enter our heart to some extent. Otherwise, spiritual knowledge remains a mystery. That's what Prabhupada spends a long time in this purport speaking on this point. How important it is to look, especially those whom we take spiritual guidance from, or learn Shastra from, should have a high degree of respect for them if we really want to learn something from them. Otherwise, you'll be less like window shopping. Let's see what this person has to say. We'll go and hear him. And tomorrow another person will go and hear him. Another person will hear him. We are not hearing with the mood of submission. We are just hearing to check let's see what he has to say. Then only the words will be heard. The heart will not be touched. It may be impressed. One may feel impressed for some time. But one will not deeply feel touched to the extent that the heart goes through a transformation. A revolutionary transformation takes place. The Tadha Visargo purport 1.5.11 Prabhupada says that this message is so powerful that it can create a revolution in the impious lives of the misdirected civilization. Even the impious lives having misdirected civilization, they also can go through revolutionary transformation. That's the potency in this message. But it requires a prerequisite or qualification to allow the transformation to take place in our heart. The prerequisite is a high degree of feeling of respect towards the person whom we hear from. And if we can take it, like Arjuna to Krishna, as an absolute authority, yes, whatever you say, I'll accept. Whatever you say, I will follow. The moment this feeling comes in the heart towards someone, and that person is a bona fide authority, like a flow of river, transcendental knowledge will flow from his heart to our heart. Bhakti is not a very long process. It doesn't take lifetimes necessarily. It is so powerful. But we first require the prerequisite of this kind of surrender, where we say, whatever you say, I'll accept. Arjuna took Krishna like this. Whatever you say, I will do. At least I'll accept it without argumentation, without questioning. And that's how Srila Prabhupada disciples, they grew so fast in such a short time. Many of them were not coming from very, very pious backgrounds. They were coming from so many impious backgrounds, having done so many wrong things, broken so many regulatory principles every day. Still, in such a short time, they became so saintly. Many of us, born in India, are coming from comparatively much more pious backgrounds. Having not sinned as much, still we are finding it so difficult to understand spirituality. We are taking so much time to get the revelation of the scriptural messages in our heart. Because we are not able to take authority in this mode. Whatever you say, I'll do. We judge, we doubt. Because modern education is teaching us systematically. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada called modern education as spiritual slaughterhouse. What are they slaughtering? This tendency to surrender. They're slaughtering this tendency to surrender. So they are all Mayavadis. Please have a broader understanding of Mayavad. Mayavad philosophy is not just people who are speaking, you are one, you and me are one. We are one with God. There's such thing they speak. Scientists may not speak about God, but they are Mayavadis. Because they are propagating systematically against the principle of surrender. Rather, you'll be surprised to know that study of world religion, one person told me, though there are some people who have studied different religions in the world. There are some forums where people study this, and they have come together and they discuss Shastra from different religions. They have come to this consensus that transcendence cannot go beyond human error. That means nobody can become so transcendental that he'll overcome human error. That means nobody can be considered as a perfect person to whom you can surrender. You always have to doubt, because still one will have errors. Like Srila Prabhupada used to say, I am not perfect, but the message that I am speaking is perfect. But they can't accept this. The people who study the world religion, that everything has to have errors. Nothing transcendental can be so transcendental, it can go beyond human errors. That means everyone will have errors, some mistakes, so you can't accept anyone as an authority where you can follow whatever he says. You will have to doubt, because he is not beyond imperfections, human imperfections. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada makes this statement here, as I said, is very important.
Therefore, you cannot believe the truth.
A common man with all the four defects of human frailty is unable to teach that which is worth hearing. So what is worth hearing can only be spoken by somebody who is beyond human frailty, or beyond these four defects. It's possible by Krishna's empowerment. Not that, see, we see defects of mundane mistake, like Prabhupada sometimes mispronounced a verse. That's not a mistake. Prabhupada openly spoke in the Bhagavatam, the 1.5.11, that the presentation that I have made may have some mistakes, grammar mistakes, but still it has the potency to create a revolution in the hearts of the misdirected civilization. Because the message is spoken with a pure intent to please Krishna. That's what overcomes all mistakes. Apparent, mundane, gross, up-looking mistakes. Krishna Eka Sharanam. This is the prominent quality of a Vaishnava. To the degree one has this quality, all other things, even if done some maybe management, some small decision, mistakenly wrong decision is taken, that's not a mistake. One of the 26 qualities of a Vaishnava is that he is Nidosha. He is beyond mistakes. Means what? Not that he can't commit such managerial mistakes. But he will not commit the mistake of taking any decision of his life based on any other consideration other than to please Krishna. His only purpose of life is to serve and please Krishna. And every decision that he takes in his life, should I eat this, should I not? Should I go here, should I not? Should I meet him or should I not? Every decision is based on, will it please Krishna or not? Then whatever he does in that interaction is not a mistake. Perfection, spiritual perfection, is when the attitude to please Krishna is kept intact. Then it is perfect. And such a person, when he speaks, it's worth hearing. Following such a person is worth following. Even if he gives a direction to you, okay, get into this project, do this service, and you have problem doing that service, that was not a wrong decision taken, because it was given with the desire to please Krishna by the authority. And you also followed it with the desire to please Guru and Krishna. Then there cannot be any mistake in that act. Even if the end result was a flop to the mundane eye, it's not a mistake. For example, if the Guru guides someone and tells, okay, you get married to this girl. After a few months the marriage breaks. We think the Guru Maharaj didn't give a right decision. I should have decided. Actually, I was already feeling that this is not the right marriage for me, right partner for me. Somehow I put faith on him foolishly. And I took the decision. See, now it has not worked. This is mundane vision, this is Mayavad. Krishna wanted this marriage to break so that you can be detached. Otherwise you would have been so attached to your wife, you would have never been able to practice spirituality. Krishna's arrangement was like this for you. One is unable to see that arrangement of the Lord. We see Krishna's arrangement as arrangement of Krishna when things go our way. Then we say, this is Krishna's mercy. Krishna was very merciful. He allowed me to do what I wanted to do. We are unable to see Krishna's arrangement as perfect arrangement when things don't go our way. This is a lack of understanding of the philosophy. So unless one takes this decision of following authority as absolute, one will not be able to understand the essence of the scriptures. It will remain a mystery. And we will continue to remain a victim of Mayavad philosophy. As I told you, if you are not practicing pure bhakti, mixed bhakti is having mixtures of Mayavad to different degrees. I don't want to surrender. That's our philosophy. The whole world is going on like this. So unfortunate. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada has given us such pure teachings where his emphasis is very clear. Srila Prabhupada gave the essence of Bhagavad Gita as Sarvadharman Parityaja. Generally, people say Karmaneva Adhikaraste. Just the first line has the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Just do your karma. Srila Prabhupada said, no, essence of Bhagavad Gita is Sarvadharman Parityaja. So Srila Prabhupada very clearly, beautifully, mercifully emphasized on the essence for us. But if we take shelter of the teaching of Srila Prabhupada, understanding that yes, whatever he has given is perfect, we don't need to go here and there to get spiritual knowledge, to get anything that is required for us to become a pure devotee of Krishna. Everything Srila Prabhupada said that we need to become a pure devotee is within these merciful transcendental purports of Srila Prabhupada. It's a very, very powerful purport what Srila Prabhupada has given in this verse. And of course tomorrow is a very, very special verse. It will be given, I think, by a special devotee, Krishna. Mataji has chosen, I think it's Viraj Swami?
Well, he changed. It's going to be given by Veda Vyaspriya Swami.
Wonderful.
He changed.
So,
But he's going to do it again on Thursday.
The same verse?
Yes.
Oh. Dehi knows me yata. This was one of the verses Prabhupada spoke maximum number of classes on. Dehi knows me yata. But anyway, it's very important for us to realize the danger of Mayavad philosophy, the understanding of the mentality of Mayavad that we have within our own hearts. And thus we need to put faith and surrender like Arjuna did. Otherwise, as Srila Prabhupada says, the message remains a mystery. Having practiced the acts of spiritual life for many, many years, still the message will remain hidden. What is it that Krishna wants me to do? What is it that we will not experience transformation to the extent that heart becomes joyfully engaged? Our heart will not feel the joy of Krishna consciousness. As Prabhupada gave a beautiful example of tasting the bottle of honey. We will not be able to taste honey. We think the taste of the bottle from outside is what honey is. That is not very delicious. For those who are tasting honey are telling, oh, it's very delicious. And we again lick the bottle. Not as delicious. So why they are saying it's so delicious? So they think that bottle taste is the honey. They have yet to. We can't open the bottle on our own. Somebody has to open the bottle for us. But we have to put faith there. What if it's still not honey? We still keep doubting. If he opens the bottle, we taste this is honey. But we have had a taste of the bottle, we think that is honey. Now this what he is giving is something other than honey. Therefore, one of the principles of surrender is to give up one's own conceptions of right and wrong. What I think is right, what I think is wrong. We are all born and we have lived our life having some conceptions of what is right, what is wrong. Surrender means to give up such conceptions and accept the conceptions given to us. Arjuna had the conception, killing is wrong. Krishna gave the conception, in this situation, kill. This is right. So surrender means to accept the conceptions given by the spiritual master. Not sticking on to our own conceptions of what is right, what is wrong. We all have our own conceptions. It's very difficult to change. Very difficult to change our conceptions. Hare Krishna. It's tremendously late. We can't think of having questions now. Thank you so very much for tolerating me all this while.